Hi, I'm Ronnie Amster, Director of Development here at WLIW, and you're in for a treat this evening. An entire night devoted to keeping up appearances. And of course, you're having an opportunity to see a brand new one and a brand new special guest right here at WLIW, Mr. Clive Swift, none other than Richard on Keeping Up Appearances. And could you explain something very important to me and to our viewing audience?
I shall try.
Okay. This is what we expected to be our Christmas special, our holiday special, and it seems to be taking place in the summer on a cruise line. Could you explain that to me?
That's a very good question, Ronnie, and it's something that our director also was slightly puzzled about. But the thing is that in Britain at Christmas, all the sitcoms play a very important part in the holiday season. You know, they're very, very big viewing figures. My God, I can hardly hear myself think with these wonderful telephone rings.
That's a good noise.
Is it? Yes, that's terrific. That's great. Oh, it stopped. And in a way, we all try and outdo one another about, you know, who's going to get the most kind of exotic location. For instance, one of the shows suddenly went down to Portugal and made a kind of 2-hour epic all in Portugal. It's really, I think it's also to give the audience a kind of a bit of a holiday and a total kind of different feel to the whole thing, instead of being cooped up, you know, in the same little house and the same little streets with the same vicar and all the rest of it. And we thought it was a tremendous coup to actually get onto the QE2. And we thought it was a typically Hyacinth thing.
Without doubt.
Do you know what I mean?
Without doubt. And you're going to see lots more this evening, so don't go away because there's plenty more of the holiday special in tune for you. But right now, Chris needs to tell you something very important. Chris? Clive, I'd like to thank you for your offer to autograph those 50 books. What a great holiday gift.
Well, that's a great pleasure. I mean, I always think that to autograph something is not very laborious. And if that's what people want, it's my pleasure. That's
well,
wonderful.
Thank you very much. Let me ask you a question. Where were you born in England?
I'm from Liverpool. We were a Liverpool family. And
you and the Beatles?
Yes, I was born slightly before the Beatles. But strangely enough, Patricia Routledge, who's Hyacinth, of course, comes also from that area. She lives the other side of the River Mersey in a place called Birkenhead, a great shipbuilding place. And also Onslow is a Liverpudlian.
My goodness.
So there's a strong kind of northwest influence into this show.
Did you know them before you joined the cast of Keeping Up Appearances?
I knew Patricia socially. We'd never worked together. And I must say we were absolutely thrilled to be able to do so because I think we both respected one another's work, and had done over many years. So this was lovely. And I think, I mean, I like to think that there is, you know, a right chemical blend between the two of us.
I think we see that very clearly, and I think you're going to see that throughout the evening as you stick with us to watch all these wonderful episodes of Keeping Up Appearances. Now, if you've gotten a busy signal, when you've called in, please be sure to hang on the line because the phones work in the fashion that the next available operator will take your call, so just hold on. And speaking of holding on, how did your family feel when you decided to become an actor? Was it something they embraced, or did they feel a little disappointed?
No, my father thought I was out of my mind, and simply couldn't. He was a businessman. He had a retail furnishing business in Liverpool, and although he loved showbiz, he loved variety theatre, and my mother was very musical and had a lovely singing voice. We enjoyed going to the theatre, but the thought of actually becoming an actor was total anathema. And, you know, one needed one's head examining, and one would die in the rain of starvation and all that. So they did everything they could to put me off it.
Well, we can see that it was a wise decision to let you continue, and we'd like you to continue to make those phones ringing by dialing the number on the bottom of your screen, so do it right now. Well, I must say, I understand that you're a musician of sorts, and I have to tell you that the music I appreciate most is the music of these ringing phones. How do you feel about it?
Well, Janet, who organizes all these ladies and gentlemen behind me, says that she's never seen a night like it. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong camera. I should direct my attention to this one. You see, this is totally unrehearsed, and I'm not used to that at all. No, it's fantastic. It seems to me the response is terrific, and I'm thrilled to bits, because otherwise there'd be no point in me coming over all the way if, you know, everything was going to remain dead and unringing.
Well, fortunately, you're here and the phones are ringing, and that's truly wonderful. And when we get to watch all these episodes tonight, we know that our viewers are going to stay with us all evening. Are each of the episodes written by the same individual?
Oh, absolutely. The man's called Roy Clark, and he's a kind of phenomenon. He writes another hit comedy called The Last of the Summer Wine, which has run in England for 21 years. It's a bit like that play called The Mousetrap, that some of you, if you've been over to England, you know, is still running at the Ambassadors or the St. Martin's Theatre. I think after 40 years. I think that's the longest running play. But and this guy, Roy Clark, he lives up in Yorkshire, in a very beautiful part of the country, and apparently he writes every day and all day. And he writes one script in the morning, another script in the afternoon, and he churns out not only these two comedies, including Keeping Up Appearances, but straight plays as well, and far more dramatic things. He is a phenomenon.
Well, I think that our viewers would be very happy if Keeping Up Appearances ran for 21 years, and I certainly hope that it does. Now, do you have any input or influence on the scripts? Does the cast give any insight into what they think should be part of the script?
It's very interesting. No, he doesn't like us making suggestions for plots at all. We're forbidden to do that, because we all have lots of ideas. And it's strange, because other writers do like that, especially after a show's been going some time, and the actors are just as conversant with the characters as the writer is. But Roy is, he's quite a difficult individual. We very rarely see him. He hardly ever comes to London, and I've only seen him once for 5 minutes, just before we were doing the very first show of all. He came into the rehearsal room, and our director said, "Have you got any questions?" And I said, "Yes, I'd like to know what Richard does. What kind of job does he do?" And he said, "Oh, something very respectable." And that's all he told me.
That's all he said. Well, we have a wonderful question for you. Have you gone to the telephone yet and become a member? If you haven't, this is the perfect opportunity to do so. We have a wonderful evening ahead for you, filled with episodes of Keeping Up Appearances. Call in if you have a question for Clive. Let us know. We'd be delighted to ask him. The most important thing is to go to the phone and do it now.
So then, this Pearson chap came up to the cabin and said we're on the captain's table. And I thought, blimey, I mean, you win a competition, you get a luxury cruise, and then they expect you to eat with the crew.
Well, it's not quite Fred and Ginger, but it certainly looks terrific and kept us smiling right here in the WLIW studio. I'm here with Clive Swift, none other than Richard from Keeping Up Appearances, and we're here to keep you entertained throughout the evening with a wonderful marathon of Keeping Up Appearances programs. So don't go away. There's lots more in store for you, and certainly in store for you is this wonderful book, Keeping Up Appearances, the etiquette book by none other than Hyacinth Bouquet, as we know her. And have you read through this book, Clive?
Sure, I have. I have actually. I think it's very, very beautifully produced. It's very clever, because not only is it full of photographs of all of us, all the characters spread all over the place, but the text keeps very close to the original scripts. And the actual lines are quoted again and again and again. So that if you are interested in the actual quality of the writing, which I'm sure a lot of you are, because I think it is so witty and so clever and unusually kind of surreal at times. This book actually will give you the actual feeling of the scripts itself.
Well, we'd be delighted to send it on out to all our friends who are watching this evening for a membership contribution of $60, and you have the name of a certain somebody that's going to get one.
They're going to get a book. Now, this is an Anthony Mirabella of New York City, right?
Yes.
And I have to say a special hello to Mary Romano, who's Anthony's aunt, and who apparently is a fan of mine, so at least I've got one fan in this state. That's terrific. Two. Well, you're a fan as well.
Absolutely. You've got lots of fans, and if you're a fan and you haven't called in yet, now's the perfect opportunity. So go on over to the phone and make that call.
Very much.
You know, in watching this program, Clive, I have to ask you a question. The cruise that you all were on, was it a make-believe cruise, or did you really have the experience of going on an actual cruise?
Well, it would be hard in a way to reproduce the QE2. So no. This is the genuine
thing.
boat, the genuine ship, and we actually were on a cruise. We got on at Southampton, and we just crossed the North Sea. We went up to Scandinavia, and the boat docked at Edinburgh, it docked at Copenhagen, at Oslo. But the terrible thing was, from our point of view, is that we were working all the time. And I'd never been to Denmark. I hadn't been to Sweden either.
Those nasty Danes, as Hyacinth said.
The nasty Danes.
Yes.
I didn't get the chance to see them pillage and rape because we weren't allowed to go get off the ship. Our director had us at it all the time.
Have you been on a cruise since?
No, I haven't. But Cunard, in fact, has invited us to go back, and if we might get a free cruise if we make the odd public appearance on the ship.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I'm going to try and take them up on that offer one day.
Oh, sounds wonderful to me, and what might sound wonderful to you is the opportunity to call in and become a member tonight. Now, if you're getting a busy signal, we hope that you'll hang on the line, because as soon as somebody hangs up here, your call will go through. So do hold on to that phone. We're very anxious to get your call. We're very anxious to find out from Clive Swift if the folks that we see in character on Keeping Up Appearances are like that in real life, or is it just a really terrific character portrayal that we're seeing?
Now you're putting me on the spot here a bit, Ronnie.
Onslow particularly, or... No. Geoffrey Hughes, who plays Onslow, is the most lovely guy. He's very amiable, he's very organized. He always comes in with his little laptop computer, do you know what I mean? And his highly organized thing. And he has a little small holding up quite near Grantham, where Mrs. Thatcher comes from. Sorry, Lady Thatcher. She is. So no, he's not at all. He doesn't go around looking like Onslow most of the time. Absolutely not. Patricia, absolutely. I mean, there's no way at all she could be like Hyacinth Bouquet at all, except the fact that being a very highly thought of leading actress in England, especially on the stage. I mean, Patricia actually is about to open in the West End in about a week's time in The Rivals, which is a wonderful 18th century comedy written by Richard Brinsley Sheridan. And I thought that was an extraordinary It certainly is. Well, we're glad to have a member of the cast of Keeping Up Appearances right here in the WLIW studio, and we hope you'll take this opportunity to call in and let us know how much you appreciate it. So go on over to the phone right now. The author of Hyacinth Bouquet's book on etiquette has a very familiar name to him, Jonathan Rice. Relation to anybody we should know?
He is, I understand, Tim Rice's brother, yes. And he's certainly done a good job of this. He's also, he's very much a man after my own heart, Ronnie, because he's a cricket fanatic. Now, I know that that's a silly thing to mention in the States.
Not at all. Not at
No,
all.
but I mean, I'm not sure that anybody plays cricket in the States.
Not really, no.
I mean, you're only getting just used to the idea of soccer, aren't you?
That's right, but it's become very popular here.
Well, I know.
Very popular.
The World Cup was fantastic.
It certainly was a wonderful experience for all of us to be able to see it and to participate in a way, you know, through the medium of television. It was a wonderful experience. Are you a sports fan?
Oh, very much so. I have the season tickets at the Arsenal. I follow which is the London club. It's a famous old London club. And both my sons were brought up as North Bankers at Highbury. You know, that's the special block on the terraces that they watch the soccer from.
Did you?
And I'm also a cricketer. I mean, I love cricket.
Did you participate in sports when you were growing up?
Oh, very much so. Very much. I mean, one of my proudest ambitions. This probably won't mean anything to anybody in the whole of America, but I'm actually in something called Wisden, which is the annual catalogue of first-class cricket records, and I just scraped in as a schoolboy. But since then, my cricket has just gone downhill, of course.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You mentioned before that Hyacinth, Patricia Rutledge, is about to open on the stage. Now, she is very involved in lots of medium. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. I think that she'd done far more theatre generally in her career than television, really. Although now, of course, especially through this show, she's in huge demand on the television, and she's about to start another series, not a comedy series, but again for the BBC. It's called Missing Persons, and she's about to embark on that in the new year I imagine, when this play finishes in the West End.
Well, fortunately for us, Clive Swift is going to be with us through the entire evening. We'll have lots of opportunity to find out more about him and the cast of Keeping Up Appearances, and we need to find out from you right now how much you're enjoying this show. So go to the phones right now and make that all-important call and become a member of WLIW. So call right now. If you've just joined us, don't go anywhere, because we have 4 more episodes of Keeping Up Appearances coming to you this evening with none other than Clive Swift right here in the WLIW studio, and we have lots of fun in store, including an opportunity to tell you that we have been corrected, that there is indeed cricket here in the United States. Now, what did we find out?
Well, somebody has rung in to say that cricket is played in the U.S. by British Commonwealth people who reside in the USA. And I gather there's a special game that's played every year on Labor Day.
That's correct. And Labor Day is the first Monday in September, and that's when it falls out. So we stand corrected, and that's wonderful information to find out.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled. I think cricket should be played everywhere.
Well, you know what that means, of course. You can come back and visit us, because all our fans are telling us that they want to see you again, and you can even play cricket. Perhaps we'll enter you in the next competition.
Well, terrific. Okay.
You like that idea. Let me ask you, speaking of your fans here in this country, did you ever anticipate that Keeping Up Appearances would become as popular here in this country as it has been in England?
No, it's fascinating. I mean, I wonder why it is so popular. Because to me, I mean, to most people, it's a very, very English show. It's very eccentric. It's got a lot of the kind of characters one associates with the Ealing comedies, those old films with Alec Guinness and Margaret Rutherford and Joyce Grenfell, Alistair Sim, all Terry Thomas, all those wonderful kind of eccentric character actors. And it's very, one might have thought it was very parochial in a way, and that it wouldn't travel. But I think the answer must be that the character of Hyacinth, the social climbing woman, is universal.
Without doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here they call it Keeping Up with the Joneses. It's not far different from what you experience in Keeping Up Appearances, certainly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that obviously does go on all over the world, because we do, I mean, I'm thrilled it's popular in the States, but we also sell to many other countries, which is terrific. I mean, wonderful.
Do you have a favorite American comedy?
Well, I adore a lot of the American sitcoms, they go out there's a puzzle here, Ronnie, and I don't know if you can, maybe you can answer it, that Keeping Up Appearances in Britain goes out on our major BBC One. Mm-hmm. And for instance, the QE2 story that you've just seen, that as a Christmas special, we got an audience of nearly 20 million, which is about a third of the whole population of the country.
Wow.
You know,
That's incredible.
because we're only a tiny little place.
That's incredible.
And I understand you've never been to England, and
No,
I
I
think
haven't.
that's deplorable. I agree.
think you
must come and set the,
I agree, 100%. And before I have a chance to go over, we'd like you to go on over to the phone and dial that all-important number on the bottom of your screen, 516-367-2121, and become a member of WLIW while Clive Swift is right here in the WLIW studios. Hi, I'm Ronnie Amster, and I'm here, of course, with Clive Swift in the WLIW studios live, bringing you a wonderful evening of Keeping Up Appearances, and you won't want to go away because we have 3 more episodes coming up and a lot of fun here in the studio this evening. Clive, what do you think of our public television here in this country, as compared, of course, to public television in England?
Well, I think that you have to work very hard, as you are doing this evening, and I gather you're going to work very hard for the next 17 nights or something to raise funds to keep all your audience happy. I also understand that tonight has really been a very big success.
It certainly has.
I mean, if I'm allowed to say thank you to your viewers,
absolutely.
I think it's going really great, and I'm delighted to be here on a really successful evening. But of course, the BBC in England, we have a license fee that is raised on the whole of the populace, and recently was a great discussion really about the whole business of whether people should have a levy raised on them, whether they liked it or not. And of course, most people are delighted that the situation, it will remain like that. The government have said that they're going to raise this levy for the next, I think it's the next 10 years on to the end of the century. And just personally, I think it's absolutely crucial that not everything on television is motivated by by commercial need, because I'm sure that really most thinking people would agree about that. Otherwise, every program is absolutely dominated by the mass audience figures and how much money sponsors will give you for it, and these. And in a way, I'm sure that the quality of programs absolutely has to suffer as a result. I mean, that's not only my opinion, it's many, many people's opinion.
Absolutely. And of course, here you don't have to pay for license fee, but you do have to pay in some respects to have the kinds of programs that you enjoy most. And we're here tonight to ask you to show your support in the best way you can by becoming a member. And we'd love to say thank you with a very special gift that Chris is going to tell you about just about now. Just a short while ago, we had an incredible phone response to our little faux pas about cricket players, and we certainly learned something very important, didn't we?
Yes, I think it's my fault. I've showed total ignorance that, of course, many communities play cricket in the States. And also I feel that as the England team have just been absolutely thrashed by the Australians in the first test match, that I have no ground to stand on, and I humbly apologize. And I'm sure that you'll join with me. I hope that all you Brit lovers will join with me in hoping that the British team who are in Australia do better in the second test match coming up soon.
Well, we will all hope so, for sure. Let me ask you, in England it seems to me that actors seem to move from one medium to another rather easily, from theater to stage to film and to television. What is the life of an actor like in England? Is it difficult to break in, and once you're in, is it difficult to stay on the top?
I think it's far more difficult now to start and to maintain a career than it was when I joined, when there was a very healthy repertory system. And the last few years, the provincial theatres, of all the repertories, have all suffered really from drastic cuts in government grants. But we very recently, I don't know if you know about this, we've started a national lottery in England, which we never have had before. And we literally just started it about a month ago. I think it must have been going about 3 or 4 weeks. and a lot of the money raised from the lottery will find its way into art subsidy. So the theatres are, you know, all hoping that a lot of it will come their way.
What a wonderful idea. Is there a particular area that you like best? Have you found that you prefer theater to television or being in front of a live audience, even though you are, of course, in the taping of Keeping Up Appearances, but is there a particular medium that you prefer?
Well, for most of my acting career, I've been a theatre actor. I was nearly 10 years with the Royal Shakespeare Company when I first started, which was the most wonderful kind of grounding, marvelous initial experience, doing all those great plays and playing some of the great parts. But latterly, I've been very fortunate because I've always had quite a healthy television career. I've also made a few movies, not very many, but I've worked with Hitchcock and with David Lean and John Boorman. And latterly, I'm happier in front of a camera. I actually enjoy working on television and film more now.
Isn't that wonderful? And it's wonderful to have the phones ringing behind us. And if you called a little while ago and happened to have gotten a busy signal, this is a perfect opportunity. The phones are quieting down a little bit. We'd very much love to hear from you with your membership contribution, because we're here tonight because you make it happen. It's your membership dollars that enable us to bring wonderful people like Clive over here. So we hope that you'll give us a call right now and let us continue to do it for you as often as we can. Go to the phones right now. How much of you is in Richard, or how much of Richard is in you?
I sometimes remind myself of my father with my dear mother when we're in the car. Because my mother was a lovely lady, but she was very anxious. She was deaf. She was hard of hearing, and she was slightly neurotically anxious. And when Hyacinth is asking me if I'm going at the right speed or if I'm in the right gear, and I say things like, which gear would you like me to be in, you know? Because actually in real life, Patricia Routledge doesn't drive.
She doesn't?
No, she doesn't drive.
But she makes a wonderful backseat driver.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Richard does remind me of my father in the way that he would shrug off, you know, all these little sallies coming at him.
Do you have a particularly favorite episode of all the episodes that you've done?
Well, yes, I think I do. I don't know if you've seen it here. I don't know. You may have done. It's when the two of us take out a little motor launch on the river. Do you think you've had that?
I'm not sure if we've aired that or not. We'll have to ask our audience. They'll know.
Yes. Well, as Ronnie doesn't know, and I think, as a matter of fact, she should know. I'm sorry.
I should.
Perhaps you can correct her.
Have we aired it? Is it something that's coming up?
The thing is, it's kind of a two-hander between Patricia and myself. And we filmed it in the most beautiful weather near Oxford on the River Thames. It was just a gorgeous, sensational week. And the whole episode is shared between us, and we both end up actually in the river. And I think so far that's my favorite, just personally.
Well, we're glad to hear that. We'd like to hear what your favorite episode is, and you certainly will have an opportunity to tell us by calling in with your pledge of support. We'd love to hear from you, and we certainly hope that the very next caller will be you. I must must admit, Hyacinth certainly does wear her hat well, as you can see on this wonderful book, Hyacinth Bouquet's book on etiquette, the correct way to behave, to act, and to, well, one-up just about everybody else. It's our way of showing our appreciation to you for your membership this evening, and another way in which we show our appreciation is by bringing a very special friend of WLIW here to the WLIW viewing audience, Mr. Clive Swift, who is with us all evening, and he'll be here quite a bit longer, so don't go anywhere. But do call in and ask us anything you might want to ask us, because Clive would be delighted to answer. Now, do you get recognized every place you go?
I do in England now, because our viewing figures are pretty high. I'm not rich enough to travel by private car around London, so I have to get on the tube like everybody else. And that can be a bit embarrassing if it's the morning after, well, a show's gone out. And I usually put a paper bag over my head, so as people don't, because, you know, it's confusing. They think, yeah, I've seen him somewhere. Have I seen him, or who is he, or does he? Because as Richard, I clearly use most of what I look like. This isn't true, you know, in all the parts one plays. But there's no false noses or kind of, you know, pebble glasses, I get the most extraordinary remarks from, I mean, the lorry drivers will lean down from their cab and say, well, why don't you tell her where to get off, you silly little wimp, you know, or give her one from me when you next see her. That kind of thing. And that happens just as they pass me in the street, really. So it's, I mean, that kind of recognition is a double-edged sword, really. I know. Well, I know that you're something of a celebrity in this region yourself. I think this lady is.
Well,
so I hear.
Not to the extent you are, but certainly with the audience that you have here at WLIW, you can be assured that if you were walking down the street, lots of your fans would call in and let us know that they had seen you and probably approach you and call you Richard. But right now, we'd like you to call WLIW and make a pledge of support. So go to the phones right now. One of the perks of being a celebrity, I suppose, if you call it a perk, is the amount of fan mail that you must get. Do you find that you get a lot of fan mail from people in the United States?
That's building more and more. And it's interesting. I mean, there are always a lot of American tourists in London. In fact, I live in London, very near the famous zebra crossing of the Beatles, the Abbey Road album, which is... and that place is inundated every day of the year. It's on the Abbey Road in near Swiss Cottage, to those who know it, St. John's Wood. But I find more and more, I don't know how long you've had our show. Is it 2 or 3 years maybe now?
We've had it on about 2 years now.
2 years. Mm-hmm. But certainly Americans do sometimes recognize me in the street, and I was sitting very next door to a very nice lady the other day in the National Gallery, listening to a lecture on, I think it was Michelangelo's early drawings. And this lady couldn't believe that, you know, that it was old Richard Bucket sitting next to her. And she wrote me a lovely letter when she got back. And so, yes, more and more Americans are writing, which is very nice indeed.
What do they want to know most? What kinds of questions do they ask you?
Well, I mean, the usual thing is, you know, could I send them a signed photo? Mm-hmm. And I have a little photograph that I do send out. And I had a nice letter from Florida the other day, a man mentioning that his son felt very sorry for Richard. And it's quite interesting because at home, this is a family show, and a lot of our audience are children, in fact, I think from quite a small age. And they all identify with Richard, who, of course, is bullied and bossed around all the time. And I get, I've had little notes passed to me in the street from kids, snotty-nosed little kids in the street, saying, we love you, Richard, and, which is sweet, I mean, really lovely, you know.
didn't we have an opportunity last night, a wonderful opportunity, to meet some of your devoted fans here in this country, including a young lady named Mary Lee, who is a big fan of British comedy and certainly of Keeping Up Appearances. And if you're a big fan of British comedy and Keeping Up Appearances, we hope you'll let us know by making a financial pledge of support this evening by calling the number on the bottom of your screen. We're certainly waiting to hear from you. Now, we certainly know about your fondness for cricket. And when we watch Keeping Up Appearances, we tend to think that you might enjoy gardening because Hyacinth seems to keep you in the garden quite a bit. Is gardening something you like to do in your spare time?
Well, me personally.
You personally.
I have a tiny, tiny little garden at home, which opens onto a communal thing in a square. And no, I'm afraid I'm not a big gardener. I keep it tidy, but I'm rather proud of my younger son, who actually is a professional gardener. He's a garden design expert, and he's also about to set up his own garden centre in so I'm very proud of Joe. Yes,
that's wonderful. Now, what do you like to do in your spare time if it's not gardening?
I like I was brought up on classical music. In Liverpool, we had still have a very fine, the Liverpool Philharmonic, and I was brought up on that. And I also write light musical comedies of my own. So that keeps me kind of...
Well, we have great comedy coming up ahead because we've still got more episodes of Keeping Up Appearances. Stay tuned. What a wonderful book, a wonderful companion to this great evening of Keeping Up Appearances marathon right here at WLIW, along with none other than Clive Swift. And Clive, I understand you come from an acting family, even though your dad didn't exactly want you to get into the role, that there's more than one of you in the family, isn't that correct?
My elder sister started it, but then she gave up and got married. I have an elder brother as well, who started off in business, and then after about 10 years decided to become an actor, believe it or not. After me, I started before he did. But Brother David, coincidentally, is also in a very successful sitcom at the moment.
Really? That's running now?
On our Channel 4. A series that's set in the television, the newsroom of a television station, and it's called Drop the Dead Donkey.
What an interesting name.
And it's all about what goes on behind the scenes in television news. And my brother has an actress daughter who's playing at our National Theatre in an Arthur Miller play, the new Arthur Miller play called Broken Glass. And that's Julia. And Julia is married to an actor called David Bamber, who is in the West End at the moment at the Criterion Theatre in a play called My Night with Reg. So there's a kind of dynasty going on from my brother's family. My eldest son was a good actor, but he was also quite bright, so he's become an academic instead.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, do you have a particularly favorite actor that you hold in high esteem that you would say has had a wonderful influence on your career? Is there anybody in particular?
Yes, I was very influenced before I became an actor by Ralph Richardson, who I thought was a most extraordinary stage performer. He was a giant of a man, and quite eccentric, but very, very vulnerable and touching. A very, very great actor. And I've been very privileged to act with a lot of very good first-rate actors. Paul Schofield was a big influence when he was with the Royal Shakespeare Company. And I was with Peter O'Toole, quite early when he did his Shylock. And I played his Jewish friend, Tubal. Vanessa Redgrave, I've acted opposite.
You've been in very good company.
Yes, yes, I've been very fortunate.
And we're in very good company ourselves right here tonight with Clive Swift during this terrific Keeping Up Appearances marathon. We'd like you to join our company by going to the telephone and becoming a member. It's very easy. You just need to dial the number on the bottom of your screen, and we have a very, very special way to say thank you that Chris is going to tell you about right now. You know, in watching this episode, I noticed, Clive, that the time has come for you to seek an early retirement. What did that do for your role as Richard in future episodes of Keeping Up Appearances?
Well, although as Richard Bucket, I can say that because Hyacinth isn't anywhere near, and she can't correct me tonight. She's a long way away in London. Although Richard Bucket was distraught, I mean, it was a tragedy that he had to spend more time with his family or more time with his wife. In fact, in terms of the part, for me, the whole thing was terrific, really, because it meant I had more and more screen time, and I had to go wherever she went, because actually, not only does Richard drive, but Patricia Routledge does not drive anyhow. Oh. So I had to have that. But what's been very exciting for me is the fact that the role of Richard has grown and grown. I remember when the director had me in first, when I was first called in to have a look at the part. In the very first episode, Richard had about 5 or 6 lines.
That's all?
I mean, he was a tiny little worm who's just said, yes, dear, no, dear, you want it on the telephone. And the director said to me very, very kindly, he said, you know, I feel a bit embarrassed about asking you to do this kind of thing, and I'm not sure you will be interested. And I had to weigh up very carefully, because at that moment, there was only just one episode.
Really?
On paper. And no thought of a series or anything. Well, we make what they call a pilot, you know.
Do the same thing here.
To see, and that's made, and then all the internal powers have a look at that. And if they approve of it, then they say, oh, well, yes, we'll have more, we'll have a series. So it was a great kind of gamble. It always is a gamble. A whole new venture is an absolute gamble. But so the fact that Richard has just grown as a role is sheer delight for me. Tremendous.
I can imagine. Now, speaking of the opportunities that you now have to expand your role, what opportunities are there for our viewers to see some more Keeping Up Appearances episodes?
Well, now, how many series have you?
We've shown 3 so far.
3. Well, we have made a 4th. We made a 4th last year. We haven't made any this year, but we plan to make a long series next year, which will be the 5th series in 95.
Well, that certainly is good news for fans of Keeping Up Appearances. And you know the place that you'll find it is right here on WLIW, your public television station. So give us a call. Let us know how much you appreciate it. And we started to talk a little bit before about American television, and we never really took off on the comedies that you might enjoy here and what you see in England. Do you get to see shows like Seinfeld and Roseanne, perhaps very popular shows here in this country? And what do you think of them?
There's a slight puzzle that Roseanne and even Cheers and now Frasier, which I adore, especially as it's got about the 2 brothers. And my brother and I have long wanted to actually do a show together as brothers. But that's
wonderful.
But the strange thing is that we see it on Channel 4, which is minority viewing, really. They get audiences of around about, say, 4 million, something like that. Now here, a show like Roseanne is huge, is networked, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, similarly, our show and many other comedies are shown on BBC One and get audiences of 10 million and upwards. And here, they are shown on public service broadcasting which again is a minority kind of way of seeing them. And it's a strange puzzle which I don't quite understand.
But it's interesting to note, and I don't know if we had a chance to tell you this, that WLIW is the 5th most watched public television station in this country, with a huge audience, so many of whom are British comedy fans. And they're tuned in tonight, and they've taken this opportunity to share a wonderful evening with you. And I think it's interesting to note that the viewers truly bring shows like yours here to this country because it's their membership dollars that help us to purchase it.
Absolutely. I'm beginning to understand that you totally are reliant on the audience out there and how they respond to an evening like this.
Absolutely.
I hadn't appreciated that really at all.
Is there a role that you have always wanted to play that you have never had an opportunity to do?
I know some actors think like that. I've played a lot of marvelous parts. I've played things like Falstaff and King Lear, in fact, I've played. Once you've played things like that,
where do you go from there?
You know, where do you go from there in a way? So I'm delighted by. Also, I've been lucky. I've never really been typecast. I played a huge, wide variety of character parts. Although I've been playing henpecked Richard Bouquet, and I also managed to portray a henpecked Bishop Proudie in a wonderful series called The Barchester Chronicles by Anthony Trollope that some of your viewers may have seen. We were very proud of. I think it went out as Masterpiece Theatre here. I mean, I've got a danger of being typecast as a henpecked little man, but on the whole that hasn't been the case. No, it's interesting. I'm over here with my agent, who's a young lady who's recently started a business of her own. And before she went off into Manhattan this morning, she told me that somebody had asked me to play a part on British television in a play, but that it necessitated taking all my clothes off.
Oh my.
Although I would only be seen in a rear view. And did I mind this? Well, my response was, let me see the part as a whole. I mean, you know, I'm not only interested in just showing my bottom. I'm sure, you know, will probably be the biggest turn-off that British television has managed for some while. But so it's amusing that you say, well, what have I got in store? That seems to be something I've got in store.
Well, let us know if you take the part, and let us know if you've taken part this evening in our wonderful marathon experience by calling us and becoming a member. It's easy to do. We're standing by, waiting to take your call, and we hope the next one's from you. Okay, this is a burning question, Clive. Are we ever going to see Sheridan?
I hope not. Because he's such a hodgepodge of a character. The answer is, excuse me, I think I'm losing my voice. The answer is no. We're never going to see Sheridan. And there are other characters, Hyacinth's other sisters. There's a sister called Violet who's married to Bruce, who we only kind of see in dim outline now and again, and she talks to her on the phone. She's the one with the pony and the sauna and all the rest of it. And they spend most of their time in Spain, I think. But I love that. I love that whole idea that there are, you know, strange characters all over the place, that the viewer can fill in as much from his or her imagination as the reality on the screen. I adore that.
Well, I think it's clear to see that our viewers enjoy it just as much, and it's clear to see how much they enjoyed having you here in the studio tonight. We thank you for coming. We hope that you'll visit us again in the very near future.
Thank you, that'll be lovely.
Well, we look forward to seeing many, many more episodes of Keeping Up Appearances and many more visits from Clive Swift. Thank you for a wonderful evening.